Hey guys, it's Emac here. Today we're going to talk about AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional Exam version 2020. I was able to pass the exam, the new version, about 2 weeks ago with a score of 800. This is a really hard and tough exam, yet rewarding and valuable. And in a pro level certification, you will see questions are really long. They're hard up and they usually have a very tricky part that you need to make sure you get it right. Otherwise, you'll pick the wrong answer. Answers are really long. You have to read them all, and most of the time they all sound right. But one of them, for example, is cost effective, or provides a better RTO or RPO. So you need a really deep understanding about AWS and also hands-on, basically experience with AWS. I definitely recommend, if you guys planning on this certification, definitely take the associate level certifications first and give yourself enough time and then prepare for the pro level certification. Well, but this certification is hard for a reason, and companies know that, and AWS designed this to be really hard. And since 2000, more than 50% of the Fortune 500 companies have been acquired or gone out of business. So the question is why? Well, it's obvious, because of digital transformation. Thomas Siebel, in his book Digital Transformation, talks about 4 components: cloud computing, AI, big data, and IoT, that's going to basically disrupt any company if you don't innovate, if you don't digitally transfer at core. A lot of companies think, oh, I have accounting software, it's so I'm digitally transferred. No, this is basically transformation in context, not at the core. Well, companies need to spend time, need to invest energy, money, and resources in order to innovate so they can compete and stay in business. So this is really crucial for businesses to come up with new ideas and deliver those features as soon as possible to the end user so they can stay in business and gain bigger market share. So this is basically a big business problem. If companies don't convert digitally, they're going to be in trouble. And I gave you the number, more than 50% since 2000. So those companies need solutions architect in order to help them build those systems. And basically having the pro level certifications provide this confidence and basically validates your knowledge for those employers or for those companies if you're a consultant. So they know you are definitely, a pro-level person who can help the company, build those scalable and amazing systems. If cloud computing is not around, definitely IoT, big data, AI, they're not possible at the scale that we know today. Well, so now let's talk about the exam, and how to prepare for it, and as far as, conditions and everything. So the exam is 180 minutes. You can also activate your 30 minutes extra through accommodation if English is not your first language or you need more time. The exam costs $300. However, if you pass one of the associate level with 150, you will be able to get 50% discount. Or if you pass cloud practitioner and then you have vouchers, so you can use these vouchers as you pass the exam. AWS encourages you and gives you a coupon 50% off so you can take the next one. So that will save you definitely some money. You can schedule the exam for online practice due to this COVID-19 situation at your home, office, and what you need to do once you schedule the exam, you have to download the software, test your system, make sure you have basically good Wi-Fi, a camera and speaker, because on the exam day, your face will be recorded during the entire session. You're not allowed to leave your desk, leave your computer. Make sure you don't drink a lot of water or coffee 2-3 hours before the exam. I definitely recommend you schedule the exam for early hours in the morning so you're not tired. Get enough good sleep, at least I would say 9 hours, because you're going to need a lot of mental power to deal with those tough questions. As far as resources, you can use industry recognized platforms like Cloud Guru, Linux Academy, Udemy. I'm not going to promote them. I'm not sponsored by them, but those are really valuable resources that you guys can use at an affordable price. But I would say, in my personal opinion, AWS documentation is probably the best and most accurate place to learn cloud computing. You can reschedule the exam for 3 times. Remember, after that, you're not allowed to reschedule it. And then on the exam day, basically a person will ask you to, show the environment, make sure nobody's around you, and you're not allowed to talk to anyone, no cell phone, make sure you have your IDs with you, and early check-in, because the process is going to take at least a few minutes. Let's say you are scheduled for 8:30 in the morning, make sure you dial in at 8 and you're comfortable sitting at the chair, ready at the desk, ready for the exam. All right, now let's talk about the exam details and the technical topics that you guys need to be really comfortable with and have basically hands-on experience with these services. So let's start with the core of the solutions architect job and responsibility, which is converting business requirement to a technical solution. Basically, as a solution architect, that's your biggest basically responsibility, to understand the business issue and come up with the best reliable, cost-effective solution for that business problems. Well, fault tolerant and high availability, these are the two topics that you guys need to really understand how they work, what they mean, and what it takes to actually build a highly available, for example, web application. So know the difference between high availability and fault tolerance and disaster recovery. For example, in disaster recovery, you'll get questions about, a company, is trying to build a disaster recovery solution on AWS. They're running this multiple application. They want to migrate this. What's the best solution to achieve, for example, RTO of under 2 hours, right? So you have a lot of moving components, and as you are reading the question, this is my personal experience, as you are reading the question, start drawing all these components in your basically imagination and think about all the things that you're trying to put together. For example, okay, I have on this part S3, on the left side I have API Gateway and DynamoDB, and have this as a picture in your head, because otherwise it is really hard to actually comprehend and understand and come up with the best answer in under 2-3 minutes. So it is very difficult. Practice the process of remembering the services and putting the icons in your head so you can basically connect them during the exam. So RTO and RPO, a lot of questions are around RTO and RPO, and for example, the company is trying to achieve this recovery point objective, and they can afford losing 1 hour worth of data, and so you come up with the best design and architecture for this problem so they can achieve this result. At the same time, RTO, recovery time objective, a company can't go down at all. It's a mission critical for a healthcare system, so it needs to stay all the time. So you need to come up with the best architecture based on the tools you have in order to satisfy that need. So as a solution architect in general, in real life, these are real questions. I mean, the company is trying to achieve a goal and need your help. So you guys need to spend enough time, energy, effort to understand these concepts really well. So AWS organization, you will see a lot of organization related questions during the exam, because it is very important. Imagine at a company, they have like 12 AWS accounts, let's say dev, test, and production for accounting, dev, test, whatever for the other problem, and they have separate billing account, and it's the security is a problem. So this is a bad practice. So AWS organization basically helps you organize these accounts and apply basically security rules to them, so you kind of have a very full control over the activity of all these accounts. So you can have SCPs, where you can basically limit the services in a certain accounts. For example, let's say I don't want my development account in finance uses RDS, for example, right? So you can basically deny that in your SCP. It's different than IAM. So even if you activate IAM in that account, it's not going to work, because it's basically overseeing that IAM activity. So how to join an account and how to create consolidated billing in order to get discount level for your reserve instances between the accounts, and all features, which is going to be a lot of things in detail, which I'm going to let you guys read about it. So AWS organization, make sure you read the documentation and you do enough basically research and hands-on that you're comfortable with creating multiple accounts. Cross account access. This is really important in terms of exam and also in real life. Let's say You want to give your developers access, for example, to production and an S3 bucket in production. You don't just open up or give them username and password to dial into your production. What if they delete? What if they update the wrong bucket or do other stuff? So cross-account access basically is the process of assuming a role in another account that's trusted by your, for example, production account. So your developers can assume that role and update the S3 bucket. So IAM policies, groups, user permission, how to apply those, the difference between identity basically policies and resource-based policies. You guys need to know that and how they work. So you got to know about AWS support plans. Well, which one supports what? Can you, for example, have 24/7 access to support team? So make sure you know the difference between the support plans. Trusted advisor, you're definitely going to get questions about trusted advisor, which is a service that gives you recommendation about security, about cost saving, or limits on your services, which is a great. It says, hey, you have an EC2 instance, it's a reserve instance, and you're underutilizing this EC2, and you can save, for example, this much amount. So you get an understanding about basically how to manage your account in a proper manner. Well, gateways, you will see questions about file gateway, cache gateway, and volume gateway, which basically helps your company to move your data to cloud, and so it can be used for migration. At the same time, if you don't want to spend and invest money in your local hardware in a hybrid architecture where you have VPN tunnel or direct connect to your cloud infrastructure, you can use it to extend your file server, for example, to extend your local capacity in terms of storage. Well, you got to be very comfortable with a direct connect and VPN. You have to know that the direct connect process, building and getting the service, it's a long process. It's not overnight or over a week process. It's going to take time to do that. In direct connect, you will get dedicated basically connection between you and AWS, and you will have public VIFs and private VIFs. When we say public, doesn't mean you can access internet. Make sure you understand that. Public VIFs is basically allows you to connect to AWS public resources like S3 and DynamoDB. And if you want to connect to your VPC, then you need private VIFs. So remember, the difference between public VIF and private VIF. For example, you got to know that direct connect is not encrypted. The channel is basically dedicated, and you have a lot of bandwidth. If you are moving a lot of data in and out of AWS, it's going to save you money. You got to know that Direct Connect is an expensive service, but for a company that requires a consistent bandwidth and the running mission critical application, and there's justification for the cost, that bandwidth is required, then definitely Direct Connect is your option. At the same time, you have, if you want to have, another type of connection to AWS, you can use VPN tunnels, IPsec tunnels, which are really encrypted, right? And you might see question how to encrypt traffic in Direct Connect. Then you have the Direct Connect connection, but on top of that, you have to build VPN tunnels, so it basically encrypts the traffic between your on-prem infrastructure and AWS. So you can also use VPN as a backup for your Direct Connect connection. In case something happens to Direct Connect, you have another route to go to cloud using a technology called BGP, which basically prioritizes the traffic. It says, okay, the cost of traffic with Direct Connect, you set the number in a really, really low amount, so it's always preferred. And if it goes down, BGP automatically switches to the other route, which is VPN, and you set it as a higher cost. So it's basically it's intelligent enough to understand which route is preferred to connect to AWS. So SSM, basically this service is really important. You got to know how to patch your EC2 instances at a scale. Let's say you have 1,000 EC2 instances, and how do you update the operating system for these instances? Well, you don't log into them one by one. You use something called SSM. You're going to know how to run a command and how to basically set up a maintenance window, ELB, application load balancing, and how to use it with microservices and ECS. You're definitely going to get questioned about ECS. You can watch my ECS hands-on video. You're going to learn a lot from that video, and I promise if you watch that, you're going to be able to answer all of the questions related to ECS. but you're going to know how port mapping works in application load balancing, in elastic load balancing, and the difference between them, and also network load balancing. If you see a huge sudden spike in your traffic, definitely network load balancing should be your option. If you need, for example, end-to-end encryption, again, NLB should be your basically option, because since you are not trying to terminate SSL in load balancer. Well, Lambda and basically serverless architecture is a big part of the exam. AWS is trying to push this concept that you should go for managed services rather than building things. If there is a question that trying to ask you to use RDS or kind of build a SQL server, for example, on EC2 and manage it, and the company is trying to reduce administration costs, so then you should know that you are supposed to use RDS as opposed to building an operating system and installing database in it, because then you have to update the operating system, you have to upgrade the version of your database, make sure it's patched, it's secure, so there's a lot of administration cost. Well, KMS is the encryption service. You need to know how KMS works. If you need dedicated in hardware in security, cloud HSM is your option, and you need to know how to make that highly available. CI/CD, definitely you're going to get questions about CI/CD. You can watch my DevOps Pro video where I explain all these concepts, and at the same time I have videos in CI/CD in my playlist. Go and take a look at those. You will be able to pretty much answer every single question in CI/CD. You need to know how CI/CD and deployment strategies work, the difference between blue-green deployment and in-place deployment, and all these different strategies. In auto-scaling group, you need to know how basically to scale a system, and how to horizontally add servers, how to distribute traffic between different availability zones, and how basically to evenly distribute the traffic. So Route 53 is another one. Is basically it's a DNS service in Amazon. It's a managed one, so you need to know which ones have, for example, health check. Let's say you're using like simple routing policy in your Route 53, and you need to know if it comes or not with, for example, health check. So these are the things that you need to know: weighted routing, how to split traffic between regions, reduce latency and failover. These are the different strategies and pros and cons, and how they can be applied to a specific business use case. Well, DynamoDB and global tables, and how DynamoDB actually works under the hood. DynamoDB streams, for example, let's say a user goes, updates a profile, then you can create a DynamoDB stream. So it basically triggers all the changes and tracks all the changes that's happening in your database. So DynamoDB, you need to know it's low latency. You can actually cache the result in front of DynamoDB using DAX, and basically serve the traffic in faster. That's going to be a very, very fast and high-performing database. Well, you need to know DynamoDB is a NoSQL type of database, and the difference between type of structured basically databases like SQL or MySQL, MariaDB, and the other ones, non-SQL database, NoSQL databases. S3, it's basically object level storage. There's no hierarchy in it, and basically when you save the files in different folders, you see them as a folder, but S3 is basically a flat storage service. And you need to know the reliability and different classes in S3. You need to know how S3 can be used with CloudFront, which is a CDN, content delivery network, in order to serve the static content of your, let's say, web application around the globe very fast. Let's say you're streaming videos and you want to serve those everywhere in different locations. So you need to know how CloudFront can be integrated with S3. You need to know S3 events, how to secure S3, how bucket policies work, how to serve a static website through S3, and how versioning works in S3. Basically, you can keep track of and you can apply lifecycle policies to different versions. Let's say you want to store your backups in S3, and those backups can go to, for example, to infrequent access, because you don't know when a disaster is going to happen, so you can save money in storage. And then you can have versioning enabled, so every week that you upload new version of your backup to S3, it will basically keep the old version, and you have the new versions as well available. But over time, you're going to store a lot of files since you're enabling versioning in your S3 bucket, and you're going to incur a lot of cost. So the way you avoid that by setting up a lifecycle policy. So you set up lifecycle policy, you say, hey, every 40 days, every 60 days, every 90 days, go through my bucket, move some to Glacier, remove some of these files so I can save more money. So you need to optimize, you need to know how exactly S3 buckets operate. RDS, which is a basically manage a relational database service. AWS takes care of all the underlying infrastructure, so you can just focus on your database. You need to know how to do snapshots and all the details regarding RDS. Secret managers and perimeter store, how to save secrets between the application. You don't want to hard code the username passwords in the application, and exam will test you on those concept. DMS, database migration service, for example, from MySQL to MySQL, from on-prem MySQL to MySQL. That can be done through DMS, which AWS spins up a replication instance in VPC and basically uploads all your data from local database to cloud database, and you can keep it in sync until it's time for migration. So you have the ability to keep those databases, the replication, live, through DMS. But if you are migrating, for example, from Oracle to Amazon Aurora with Postgres, let's say compatibility, and then you need to use a tool called SCT. It's basically a schema tool that converts and prepares the data schema issue, because you are going from one vendor to another one. So you need to know the difference and when to use the schema service. AWS Guard Duty, AWS Inspector. You need to know Inspector is an agent base. Basically, it needs to run on an EC2. Well, we talked about Direct Connect, but let's talk about a little bit about VPC peering. VPC peering, that's how you connect VPCs. You need to know that transit gateway can be used in order to reduce the administration and the number of VPN tunnels that you're going to create and connect the infrastructure to, for example, VPCs or traffic between the VPCs. You need to know NAT gateways and how to build central NAT gateway, basically system. So VPC endpoints and interface endpoint. You're going to get questions about VPC endpoint. For example, a company is trying to access a important and sensitive information in S3 through the web application, but they don't want to use public internet to hit the S3 bucket. So what do? They use VPC endpoint, which provides private routing to your S3 bucket. That can be, for example, a scenario. And then also you can use interface endpoint. They basically give you the ability to inject any service to your VPC. Definitely make sure you have a very clear understanding about reserve instances, when to use them, when there's a commitment and companies trying to use this application for 3 years. So it's better to sign up for reserve instances so you can save money. And then, of course, if they need, for example, in Black Friday, the sales go up and they need more instances, then you can combine that with on-demand instances, because on-demand is good for those type of situation. If you have a batch job, for example, processing a bunch of batches and they can be interrupted and you don't care, you can pick it up when it's ready. Then spot instances can be a good candidate, because you can save a lot of money using spot instances. So make sure you are very, very comfortable with AWS billing model in EC2 instances and when to use them. Well, you need to know all the EC2 instance types, when to use compute instance and when to use, for example, memory instance, and when to use, for example, general purpose. For databases, you need to make sure you have a very clear understanding about the different classes of instances in AWS. EBS volumes are very important, and how you can apply them to a specific scenario. They are basically a volume, network-based volume, and they're slower than instance volume, right? So if you want to achieve a really, really high IOPS, over 64,000 IOPS, you definitely need to use instance volumes. But EBS volumes, you need to know how much IOPS you can get. One thing I want to mention about the limits, you need to know a lot of limits in the exam. For example, if you hit API gateway and you want to wait for 3 minutes to get a response, API gateway is not going to work. So you need to know all the limitations in your account, how many users can be created in AWS account, and those are the ones. There is actually a page in AWS that describes all these limitations really well. EFS and Elastic File System can be used with thousands of instances. It's a basically shared storage between the EC2 instances. You definitely need to know about Elastic Beanstalk and how to deploy. You need to know it's a platform as a service, and you can deploy a lot of different applications like Java, Python, Go, and to Elastic Beanstalk, and of course Docker. And you can do multi-Docker in one instance. DDoS protection is another topic, and you need to know how to mitigate DDoS attacks, how to scale, how to absorb the attack, how to use Route 53 in order to basically distribute the traffic between different AZs, and how to scale during that time. So you got to know that for DDoS attack, all the AWS accounts, they come with something called AWS Shield. But if you want an advanced protection, which you get response team, and basically they reimburse you for the cost that you incurred during the attack. So you need to know how WAF can be used, Web Application Firewall. It's not for DDoS protection. It's for example, attacks like application layer attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting. AWS Service Catalog, basically, let's say you have a team and they're not familiar with AWS, but they need you to give them a platform so they can launch different, for example, WordPress sells websites for the company. So since users are not familiar with AWS services, you need to architect and build this using different components of AWS, and then give them access to Service Catalog. And you tell them, hey, go to Service Catalog and launch your application. Don't worry about how it works, right? This is how AWS Catalog can be used. As far as compliance, AWS Config can basically track your account and make sure your account is compliant. For example, let's say you have a regulation that all your S3 buckets they need to stay private. And if someone goes and creates a public S3 bucket, AWS Config can basically identify that, and using the config rules actually can do some preventive actions, but it will notify you so you're not compliant. So let's say you want to make sure all your instances, they don't allow port, for example, SSH. You can do that using compliance, and then, of course, notify your security team. Step function, you need to know the difference between step function and, SWF, which is simple workflow service. Elastic cache, you need to know the difference between Memcache and Redis. Redis is the advanced one, which is used in regular and real life applications. Memcached is a little bit simpler. It supports very simple data structures, but you need to know the difference, which one supports backup, which one doesn't, and things like that. So EMR, Elastic Map Reduce. When you hear about big data and processing a lot of data in AWS, you should be thinking about EMR. You can run, for example, Apache Spark, which is an in-memory, big data tool on top of AWS. These are the things AWS manages the underlying infrastructure, and so you can focus on your processing your big data. SQS, which is a queue system, so where you can decouple your applications. For example, let's say in a banking web application, you go to the website, you put the request, you want to, for example, transfer money, it goes to a queue, and it sits there until another server comes and picks up and processes that process for you. This is how you decouple the applications, so you can basically adjust the scaling between the applications, and users don't have to wait for the response. So SNS is a very important topic. You can subscribe to topics and distribute basically message between different endpoints such as text messaging, email, and HTTP endpoints. So Kinesis, AWS Kinesis, which is an amazing service. You need to know the difference between Kinesis Firehose and Kinesis Data Stream. And if you are looking into, for example, real-time data analysis and data streaming pipeline, definitely, Kinesis Stream should be your option, not Kinesis Firehose. Since Kinesis Firehose, the minimum is 60 seconds. So that's the minimum interval you can get out of Kinesis Firehose. So you need to know how Kinesis can be, for example, integrated with IoT project. You can stream, a lot of information from millions of devices around the globe to Kinesis Stream. Kinesis Stream can deliver those to different, for example, sources in AWS. You need to know the destinations for Kinesis Firehose though. Placement groups, you need to know the difference, for example, between the cluster and partition. And when you want to do, high performance computing, placement group should be your option. Federation, you have to know federation pretty much everything about it, and how to integrate your, for example, mobile application with third-party identity providers like Google, Facebook, Amazon, and things like that. You need to know how to integrate that with your basically Active Directory in corporate network, and basically use AWS SSO in order to access different accounts. So AWS Snowball, if you're moving a lot of information to AWS and you have very low speed internet, so one of the answers should be probably AWS Snowball. You have a Snow Mobile, you need to know the difference between those services as well. ECS and ECR, these are the things that you need to know. Definitely, again, watch that video that I have regarding application deployment to Elastic Beanstalk, my DevOps Pro video, and also ECS and CI/CD videos. These 4 videos will help you a lot during the exam. So Lambda, don't forget about it. CloudWatch and CloudTrail. Know the difference between CloudWatch and CloudTrail. CloudTrail is basically for auditing purposes. API Gateway is one of them. Make sure you know all the limits, error types, what can go wrong, and how they can be integrated with Lambda and DynamoDB, classic AWS serverless application. Well, I do have another video. You can watch an application where I build an application for serverless application. So Redshift, remember, if you're looking for data warehouse, Redshift should be your option. It's basically queries based on columns, not rows. That's why it's so fast. So you need to know basically pretty much all the details about a lot of services in AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional. This is a very valuable and rewarding certification. I definitely encourage you to spend time, energy on this certification, because it will open up a lot of opportunities in your career, and you will definitely enjoy building a lot of awesome, reliable, scalable, secure systems on AWS. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. I would love to hear from you guys. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.